We were talking, I just mentioned briefly about the idea of exercise, being good for you. We all know it's good for you. We're all told you should do it, try to do it, you need to do it. And then we all say, oh, yeah, good, great idea. But then, of course, it turns out not all of us sort of follow through. In fact, a large percentage of people don't. Now there's the issue of how actually working out affects your brain health. And this is something that most Canadians do not apparently think about. Josh Cooper is president and CEO of the Baycrest Foundation. They just conducted a major study of this, 1,500 Canadians involved, with some rather interesting results. Mr. Cooper, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So let's talk a little bit about this. Obviously, we know working out, exercising is good for us. Where's the brain component in this? How does it work?
Well, so obviously at Baycrest Foundation, we encourage Canadians to get a head start on brain health from a very early age and consider their own brains in much the same way that we would consider our hearts, our kidney, our livers, our lungs, and our overall body health, because the brain responds positively to a healthy lifestyle.
All right, so the brain responds to a healthy lifestyle, which you would think ordinarily if you said that to somebody, that would be reason enough to, in fact, start working up. But your study shows that's not the case.
Yeah, only 6 in 10 Canadians actually engage in exercise for the purpose of maintaining brain health. But there are some other takeaways. Like 33% of Canadians have increased their level of exercise since the start of the pandemic. But 92% of Canadians, they do express a willingness to be more physically active if it means preventing cognitive decline. However, they're not all actually taking action on it.
Do we know, by the way, as you describe this, I mean, when you go see, like, take example, you go to see your family physician, how significant do you think is the role when doctors talk to people about how they should stay well and age well of physical fitness? Is it being sort of sent out there enough?
I think that the message is getting out there more and more, and certainly at Baycrest Foundation, we're trying our best to spread a message across Canada that a healthy, active lifestyle is actually good for your brain health. But much like everything else that you hear from your doctor on maintaining your health, it's up to the individual if they choose to listen or not and actually act on it. So it just depends on the individual.
I'm wondering if there's a connection. I mean, there's certainly a connection between exercise and mental health. It does so much for our mental well-being. I'm wondering, though, if there's a connection between doing things as an individual or doing things as part of a group. Because I find when you kind of commit to a group and it's not just up to you to kind of decide whether you're going to do the exercise that day or not, it's a huge motivator. Do you have any information on that, Josh?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's just going to depend on the individual and how much they're actually motivated, be it alone or with a group. And some people clearly prefer to do exercise alone. Some prefer in a group. But 93% of Canadians of all ages do believe that exercise plays a significant role in their emotional state, their mental clarity, and their actual well-being. So the majority of us know it. It's just a question of how much of us actually participate.
You know, it's interesting when I think back. Remember, government of Canada, I guess, for years and years used to have those ads running on TV, the fitness break ads, right? And I'm trying to remember the names, the couple that were there like all the time. So that was
Participation.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Participation was a pretty big deal. Government involvement. It seems that's kind of fallen by the wayside right now. Is part of the reasoning here, do you think, that government should be more actively involved in promoting this?
I think everybody needs to be more active. And you're right, those old commercials with Hal, and I forget her name. But,
that's it, Hal with the mustache.
Yeah.
Exactly. The good news is that what's good for your heart is good for your brain. And that's one of the messages that doesn't get out enough. So any type of physical activity, healthy diet, a healthy regular diet, anything that is good for your heart is good for your brain. So a Mediterranean diet, all of these things, and certainly what's also good for your brain is a lot of social stimulation, which over the last few years of lockdown have been difficult for a lot of us to maintain that.
It was Hal and Joanne, by the way, Body Break, and they are
Hal Johnson, right?
And they're a couple in real life. They've been married, evidently, for a gazillion years. So let me ask about that, too. You said some people prefer to be to exercise as individuals. Some people prefer to be part of a group. Does your home situation come into play in so much that, like, if you're in a relationship where you're encouraging each other to do physical activities? I'm thinking about my parents who, try to get each other to go on walks. I would imagine that plays a role.
Yeah, socialization has a tremendous role on your brain health, and that's something that was very crucial, especially to seniors throughout the pandemic. And nearly 6 in 10 Canadians, about 58% of the people we surveyed, feel that given the last 2 years of lockdowns, that they look more forward now to their community, to their city, allowing public and recreational events such as cycling and running to come back in person. So, again, the numbers show that people want to do more. It's just a question of how many are actually doing more.
What about how to start? Because it seems to me that's always going to be the worst part or the hardest part, right? Is saying, yes, I want to do it, but actually dragging yourself for the first time to go do it. And by the way, I should point out, when I say dragging yourself, you don't need to be going to a gym, because I know your survey found a lot of Canadians have taken up cycling, for example, and that's a pretty healthy way to start.
Yeah, there's a strong connection between exercise and brain health, and our research at Baycrest shows that just 150 minutes of exercise per week will help delay the onset of Alzheimer's and other related dementias. So once you get started, if you could just get up to that 150 minutes a week of exercise, which really isn't very much when you break it down, it does have tremendous benefits to your longevity.
So I'm doing the math in my head. That's 2.5 hours a week. So that would involve...
If you break it down by day, it's not much, but somehow it does still seem like a big commitment. And yet I'm thinking, young people were supposed to be limiting their screen time to 2 hours, right? Yeah, kids and adolescents to 2 hours a day. And I bet that, they would benefit way more from having additional physical activity time. And I know your study, didn't talk about kids necessarily, but you talk about younger Canadians and how they are even more likely to have increased their physical activity during the pandemic. Do you think that bodes well for kids going forward? Because there's been so much talk about them, kids just having so much time on screen and not time outdoors playing.
Yeah, it's certainly times have changed from certainly when I grew up, when you would stay outside until the sun would set and people would come out to get you. Now they're sitting inside on screens. It's absolutely better to start at a young age. We're always encouraging people to start at a young age in terms of their overall brain health with exercise, getting off the screens and being outdoors and just doing something healthy, because even the 150 minutes, the 2.5 hours a week, when you break it down and you think about when I grew up, you could stay outside, you could play hours and hours just of road hockey every day. Yeah. So 150 minutes was nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should point out as well, the sort of the paradigm has shifted in a way too, because when I talk about going to the gym, dragging yourself to the gym, there are so many people now, and I know this anecdotally, who do this stuff from home, because you can take an exercise class on Zoom, follow along with someone doing this. You never have to leave your home. You get some bands, you get a couple of weights, you're good to go, right?
That's me with my Pilates class on Wednesdays, and it's made it much more accessible for me, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people actually talk about that as their physical activity, whether they even think of that because they're at home doing it. But you know what? The bottom line is the study does point to the fact that, you need to do this. It is not only good for your mental health, it's just plain good for your brain. So hopefully that message gets across. Mr. Cooper, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate being here.
President and CEO of the Baycrest Foundation. They're the ones who conducted this study. But it's true, isn't it? And by the way, it's worth noting as well, and this is maybe an offshoot of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Remember when everyone was going Peloton crazy?
Yes.
Buying those bikes, taking those courses, whatever else. And obviously people at one point decided, okay, that's enough, because the stock has basically gone into the toilet.
That's because Mr. Big died on a Peloton, and so then...
It's what?
Mr. Big died on the Peloton.
Yes, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Someone else did too in another TV show, didn't
remember?
it? Right.
Yeah, and then there was another. Yeah, I can't remember. Who was the second character?
I don't know, but I'm bringing this up because I know for a fact. So my son-in-law, who has one of these at home, was nuts the first couple of months, like going like a madman every day, getting on, doing the thing, and now it's just collecting shirts.
Oh, no.
And that's what I'm sure happens to a lot of people, right? You get into it, and then it becomes... either because you're going back to work or for whatever reason, you're kind of like, yeah, I'll get around to it tomorrow or the next day.
But the fact that it's there, even though it's just got shirts hanging on it right now, makes it easier to get back to it. Like I'm thinking about my guy and his elliptical. Like sometimes he'll go through a phase where he's doing it every single day, and then sometimes he won't do it for months. Then maybe he only gets back a couple days, but at least it's there, so it's accessible when you do have that switch in your brain to get. No, you're not.
I don't know.
Not sold.
It goes from weeks to months to then longer than months, and it's like, I hadn't been on that in a year, so I better get back on it now. And then you fall off again. It's hard. It's really a mental challenge to force yourself. There's some days you just don't feel like doing it. Bottom line, you got it. There are plenty of days I drag myself to the gym, and I have a gym in my building, and it's still some days.
Oh God, yeah, I know.
No. And then there are days you go down there and you work out and you're like, this is the worst workout I ever did. Why did I even bother coming? So it's hard. You really sort of have to focus. It's like a job. It almost has to become that way. So you know you have to go and you know you have to spend the time.
But this is why I love walking so much. And I don't walk anywhere near as much as I used to, because walking you do without thinking, right? Like, it's exercise. It's so good for you on what?
Well,
what?
just as you said that, I thought, no, there's thinking involved. Sometimes I think, I don't want to go for a walk. So there's my thinking in walking. Yeah. It's because there's no reward at the end unless you're walking to go buy ice cream.